Millicent, Johnnie, and I recently just moved to Uptown. I live in, do I tell where I live?
Yeah, I mean...
It's Gables Uptown Tower,
okay.
Right on McKinney, across from Private Social in Del Frisco's. It is a fairly new neighborhood to me. I was living downtown prior to that, and then my first apartment in Dallas was in the Cedars. So it seems like every year I'm I'm in a different neighborhood.
Moving around a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So do you want me to just talk about the neighborhood, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you could just kind of talk and kind of give us a sense of what the neighborhood's like.
Okay, sure. Okay, so my neighborhood feels like it is kind of rooted in bar culture. So there are a lot of bars and lounges in the area, lots of restaurants. There are lots of people hanging out, but it's not a very diverse crowd. So that has been really interesting for me. There are lots of young people, but then in terms of like, there's not a generational diversity at all. And then in terms of ethnic diversity, there definitely isn't much ethnic diversity down there. So that's different for me as because I tend to kind of venture in the neighborhoods that are multi-generational, usually are kind of hip and urban and culturally diverse.
Sure.
But I do like that my building is very safe and that there are tons of things that are accessible. So like the grocery store is around the corner, there's a mom and pop coffee shop as well as the Starbucks. I go to yoga down the street. The park is right around the corner. The Katy Trail is right down the street. So those are the pluses. I do wish that it didn't feel so segregated in terms of cultural diversity.
Sure. I mean, do you have any suggestions on how to
do that?
How they could make it more of a diverse neighborhood?
Yeah, I know. Like when I lived in Atlanta, they used to have Screen on the Green in the parks. And so they would basically show like movies on a big screen in the middle of the park, and people would bring their blankets, and like I watched The Wiz, and it was awesome because people were singing and dancing, and it was multi-generational and multicultural. So stuff like that. Like I don't know, survey the land, see who's in the neighborhood, and then just ask them what they want to see. You know what I'm saying? Outside of assuming that the only way we can commune is at a bar.
Sure.
So I was saying, I'm really appreciative of Dallas. I've lived in Atlanta and New York and different parts of Florida and Louisiana and New Orleans, where the people of color, the cultural fabric that is reflective of the people of color is more woven into the kind of tapestry of the city. Do you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't feel so segregated, it's more celebrated actually. All of the contributions of all the people that make up those particular cities, it's celebrated, so it's not so isolated. And I think it's kind of what I'm experiencing at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, how do you think those cities kind of achieved that interweaving?
I know in particular New Orleans, it's just historically it was a cultural melting pot. So you had the Spanish, you had the French, you had the indigenous people who were already there. When they brought in the enslaved Africans, they came directly from Africa, into New Orleans. And just from the beginning, there were for example, Congo Square. That was the meeting place for the enslaved Africans, the indigenous people, and the free people of color to mix and mingle. Do you know what I mean? Like that was favored and celebrated, and so I think that those kinds of ideas and energies get woven into the larger understanding of the city and the people. And the understanding that there's strength behind the mixing and blending of cultures, and then also too, I think there's strength behind celebrating separately what you have and taking ownership in that, but then also recognizing that both can coexist, or they should coexist, and that there's strength behind both. Do you know what I mean? Both understandings. but that you gain more when your perspective is more global. That's been my experience. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the more that I have ventured outside of what I know, I've just gained more information and new knowledge to help me understand more about myself and where I want to go and how I want to get there. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I think sometimes, you know, like, what's the old saying? When your cup is already full, there's nowhere to go. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, there has to be we have to create space, I think, for these kind of conversations to happen. We have to create space for the mixing and the blending of these ideas and people to happen so that we can grow. You know? I don't know if that makes sense.